Dr. Life in the business of saving lives, first responder to unnatural, artificial, man-made disasters. We the Shine Doctors. It is Shine Doctor, Kanisha, Miss Dr. Kanisha. Even though there's a bag in here right now that say no more Miss, no more Mrs., no more it's Doctor. Regardless, Miss Shine Doctor, Kanisha, Queen of the South, Queen of the Northeast, Queen of Salem, Zion Life, and Mr. Dr. J, Just You Run the Upright One, Damon, King of Salem, Life. Her RPG, Shine on RPG. That's me, the rugged prophetic ghost of alien bedrock nation. We live in this world. We're not of this world. This world is not our home. So, as quick as possible, we are going to finally open and close, shut case, on the topic of demon possession. So the very first disease was the mental disease, nymphomaniac, demoniac, sex. Addiction is a disease. And the very first disease was addicted to sex. This is what the Tower of Babel was. Nimrod, this is where you get nymph. A water nymph is a woman, a female being. Okay? The opposite of the dopamine that you get, that God gave you, is cortisol. The opposite of dopamine being released when you're unifying properly in the divine order of God, the opposite of life is death. So, a water nymph is, so when God says Mystery Babylon, the mother of harlots, the prostitution that Satan and the 1/3 did in heaven, Ezekiel 28, okay, is what's being referred to as the very first disease that Cain, who would not listen in Genesis chapter 4, God said, if you do right, I will accept you. And Cain still killed his brother after the warning. So all of the diseases and all of the so-called spiritual religions that y'all talking about, Cain was demon possessed by all of those beings that were cast out. And then his practice and his children, all of the so-called spiritual religions, and it's no such thing as an African spiritual religion. No such thing, because there's no such place called Africa until they created anthropology. All of those terms of people, Bantu, Yoruba, these are European, the same colonists, the same exact colonists. There is no term of a group of Africans before 1844, when Charles Darwin wrote The Origin of Species, and then they started comparing the skulls, the heads of Europeans to the heads of, to identify and separate the people that they were trying to identify as less than 3/5 of the human being, subhuman. That's where the term Africa came from, 1844. Before 1844 and Charles Darwin's Origin of the Species, there was nobody calling any group anywhere on the world Africans. So to be pointing to a group of people that came over from lands called Africa in the 1600s and 1700s. They could not be called Bantu then. They could not be called Yoruba then, Igbo then. The Bible defines the spirituality that y'all talking about, and it labels the people the Philistines. And Adam in Genesis 1 and 2 named all of the animals the day that he spent with God. But they did not have an answer for creation until 1844. And they had universities all over the world, but they don't have an answer for creation. There's Islam everywhere, there's Catholic churches, but they don't have an answer for creation. So Charles Darwin gave them one when he created the origin of the species. He created the evolution lie. He created anthropology. He created all of these sciences that did not exist. And then in 1865, all of the European nations came together and said, now we have labels. And they created a map in Germany. And they carved up the lands, and they called the lands that they were splitting up between all of the colonial powers, they called the lands Africa. So how are you saying you're practicing an African traditional religion that did not exist? And the original people that were practicing what you guys are practicing, I'm going through the text where God cursed that which y'all practicing. Y'all call it y'all religious systems under new names: Santeria, Voodoo, Palo, Mayumbe, and all of these so-called spiritual religions. I'm going to take you right to the text where God defines exactly what y'all do. And then all of these individuals, they'll go into Catholic churches too and pick up the same exact Bible So I'm simply giving definitions, text, and truth. That's it. Ain't no emotions, ain't no feelings, ain't no reason, ain't no rationale. Simply what God has said, what God has done, the precedence of his judgments against his commandments not to participate in it. So what I'm also giving you here today is the court system. The supernatural court system that all of us who are God's children in his covenant, we don't need anybody to police us. God gave us a system of judges after he gave us the Holy Spirit. And then we settle differences, whatever, in this supernatural court of law. And the Bible and the law system that came out of the King James Bible, that all of y'all take y'all oaths on, that all of y'all go into court and you put your hand on that Bible, that King James Bible, there is not the original covenant that Jethro taught Moses before Moses even wrote the Bible. So the court system that we're in and that the Apostle Paul referred to, he said, I am not under the law. Referring to what Moses wrote and referring to what y'all all acknowledge in the King James Bible, God had already given a system of judging. When he said to Adam and Eve, you have dominion. He made them the first judges in this court system. And our people kept it all the way to Jethro. And then when Jethro taught Moses it, And when the people rejected joining Moses and his father-in-law and his wife, he then wrote the court system, the laws that y'all have, that they would not be able to keep. So when I tell you, y'all got to get out of our lands, when I tell you, because we are governed by that which Jethro taught and trained Moses, which is exactly what God taught and trained Adam and Eve and said, you have dominion, be fruitful and multiply, replenish the earth and subdue it. This is our law. This is our covenant. And then he breathed on them, gave them the Holy Spirit like he gives us. So the Holy Spirit polices us in the law. We don't even acknowledge your courts, your governments, your states, all of that. And this is the last opportunity for those of y'all who want to be in the everlasting covenant to accept this invitation to join us. Okay? And because there are more than 45 references dealing with demon possession as a result of the very first disease that Cain introduced, nymphomaniac. A maniac is a demoniac that's out of their mind. So mental illness. So this whole industry about mental illness connected to or disconnected from the fallen demons that were cast out, that demon-possessed Cain when he kept breaking the commandments of God. 3 separate commandments. The commandment to worship and bring the proper worship. The commandment where he killed his brother. And then after that, God told them, idolatry is making a graven image of any likeness or anything. And he told them, don't put any tools on the stone. And Cain leaves and he goes and he builds the very first city. And just what God told him, do not put any tools and fashion any stone, because y'all create stone and y'all create objects of stone. So if you're going to build something, don't put no tools on it. Pick up the stones, even the altar. He said, pick up 12 stones and don't fashion them at all. Pick up the stone as it is, fashioned from my hand, and then stack 12 of them on it, and then come to worship. Cain ignored that. Three separate commands that God gave that Cain violated, and God hit him and allowed Satan to own him and rule him. Nymphomaniac, demon possession, is the only definition of mental illness. And it is so widespread in the time where the Messiah was born. Everywhere he went, there was an individual filled with these demonic spirits. The first thing he did when he met his disciples, he gave them the Holy Spirit and told them to cast out demons. This is how prevalent it is. Then he goes up to Galilee and he bumps into the demoniac. Then he leaves Galilee and he goes down and he bumps into another door. Everywhere, more than 45 instances. So nobody in the world is ever going to say anything to try and sweep this phenomenon everywhere we go, because y'all practice the same thing the Philistines practice. Y'all got the same spiritual religions that the Egyptians practice. So the same amount of demon possession is prevalent. And so I'm going to show you how you remove demonic possession from your family, from yourself, from your family, out of your life, out of your community, out of the USA, and out of the world completely. Because God commanded his children to do exactly that. Because God created his children to police the creation of his hand. And the inmates sentenced to death are the 1/3 from heaven that was cast out. So he gave his children authority to police the unclean, unfamiliar spirits. And when they possessed family members and friends and loved ones, like they possessed Cain, to prevent those demonic people from doing to your loved ones what Cain did to Abel, God gave his children the ability to overpower every demonic being that was cast out and that possesses other individuals. Let's go. Let us go. And so, to my people from Cuba and people from Africa, first of all, the islands ain't called Cuba. That island's not Hispaniola. It's not Haiti. 1844 and 1865 is when the colonial powers sailed to those shores and branded them that. So if you want truth, this is truth. You can't say, yo, our ancestors go back, and you're acknowledging anthropology. Anthropologists called groups of individuals Bantu. That word don't exist. They called the land the Congo. That didn't exist before the same colonial powers. You cannot identify with their slave brand names and then say you separate. Yo, this is an ancient. It ain't ancient. What was ancient is the practice, but God already judged it. That's why they changed the name.
Funny, isn't it? That when your time comes, you just know it. I went back to school. Now I've got the skills and the certainty that this is where I deserve to be.
Level up with a business degree from Capella University. What can't you do?
What have I?
This is what we talking about.
The image
This is what we talking about.
And Aaron fashioned it.
Your ancient spiritual religions.
Ready to be
This is the god. His name is Horus.
And man's device.
Horus.
And he fastened it with nails that it should not move.
This is the sun in the Egyptian Trinity. The S-O-N.
Did beat the molten gold into thin
Osiris, Isis, Horus.
gathered their treasure into the midst of the furnace.
And they changed Osiris's name to Set.
To melt it.
In Egypt, he's called Osiris and Set. IHS. IHS is the acronym that the Roman Catholic Church, every one of the colonial powers that went and did what they did, they were Roman Catholics. There's no colonialism, there's no slave trade without the Roman Catholic Church. They bankrolled all of it. There's no Islam without the Roman Catholic Church. And the symbol that I showed y'all the other day that Nelson Mandela wears, in the occult book, the Freemasonic Satanic Bible, which worships Lucifer, written by Albert Pike, Morals and Dogma is the book. In Morals and Dogma, Albert Pike says the individual who wears the Maltese cross is the high priest of Horus. Hello. I showed y'all the other day where Nelson Mandela got initiated into the Knights of Malta. The Maltese cross is the star of the Knights of Malta. That's the British who colonized South Africa And so Nelson Mandela's family tribe was the tribe that they used to enslave the other people. So they made that family Knights of Malta. But the Church of England is the Anglican Church, and it is subservient to the Roman Catholic Church. And the priest, which is the Pope, the High Priest of Horus, wears the Maltese cross. That is the brotherhood, the Freemasonic brotherhood in England. And Horus, it says the Pope is the priest. This is Albert Pike. Washington, D.C., they got a whole shrine. He wrote the Bible on Freemasonry so that none of them could lie and say they didn't know that they worshiping Satan. Because when they read the King James Bible, that's called esoteric. Esoteric is morals and dogma. The insiders get the truth. We worship Satan. Esoteric, for the public, that they call goyim, sheeple, blind sheep, led to the slaughter. Esoteric, we tell them to lie. We tell them what they want to hear. Esoteric and esoteric.
Blue and purple and scarlet,
And it's always an
and
orgy
fine
to worship
linen,
Horus.
in Egypt.
It's always
And the women
sexual orgy.
red grapes from Midian
Always has
into
been. So
new
when you talk
wine.
about ancient, spiritual, this is what y'all talking about when y'all talk about Santeria, when y'all talk about Voodoo, when y'all talk about Pala Mayumbe, when y'all talk about all of the spiritual, these are the spirits that you're having sex with. Nymphomaniacs, demons, because the unpardonable sin, God said, don't you know that every other sin is outside of the body? He who destroys the temple, him will I destroy. Don't you know that your body is the temple of God, the indwelling of the Holy Spirit? The only way to get the Holy Spirit out of your body is to have sex and swap bodily fluids with somebody who's demon possessed by the fallen demons, and then you get demon possessed. And this is how they do it. This is the ritual. This is the rites. This is Horus, Egypt. And each one of the gods of Egypt have a sexual ritual connected to defiling your sanctuary, so you violate the unpardonable sin.
It takes 90 seconds for this NASA-engineered AC cool down your room. It's smaller than a toaster, cools any room in 90 seconds, and uses just a fraction of the energy of a regular.
The More Science Temple teachings came by the way.
They're going to tell you right out of their mouth. All of these black people running around here talk about Moors. They're going to tell you right out of their mouth. They're going to tell you right out of their own mouth what it is.
The More Science Temple teachings came by the way of the Shriners or the Masonic Lodge, which Noble Drew Alley was enrolled in.
The Moorish Science, the Moorish Science Temple came out of the Shriners, which is the 32nd degree, in the European initiation rites that are found in that book, Morals and Dogma. Scottish Rite of Freemasonry, York Rite of Freemasonry, Albert Pike, who wrote the book that I just quoted. So if Noble Drew Ali was a Shriner, then he got initiated, and then he created his Black Moors Science Temple. Now all of these black Moors joined. They just told you. He got it because he was enrolled as a Shriner. I just showed you the other day, Farrakhan did the same exact thing. Even though what the true religion that they were practicing is predates European lodges. But because it's documented so heavily in the Bible, they know that they cannot stand on the Egyptians, the Philistines, all of that. So they showed the Europeans how to create a new and rebrand a new whitewashed version of what they've always been practicing. And then they go and they join the European joints and try and sell it to y'all, and y'all buying it. Y'all buying it. Louis Farrakhan did the same thing with the Church of Scientology. L. Ron Hubbard writes a book, Dianetics, and creates a Church of Scientology. And Louis Farrakhan takes money and tells all of his people they have something that we need. That's because they can't come out and stand on Egypt, on Babylon, on all of that, because it's already been judged. So they want to deceive our people into joining them with the whitewashed version of the same exact trash. And all of y'all standing behind these governments and all that, I'm going to show you the crime that the CIA did against the people here. The CIA belongs to everything DC is, belongs to Buckingham Palace, and they still trying to colonize lands that they will never be able to colonize. This is the crime where they created these freak off pipelines that we have just shut down. The CIA created what I'm addressing. The addiction pipelines into the country, the sex trafficking networks based off of addicting people to the drugs. They created the whole system. The whole mental illness industry was created as a result of all of the people who got addicted to the drugs. And the place where they got it from was Switzerland. So this is the Europeans' attack on the USA via Washington, D.C. and the White House. So when the U.S. presidents, all of them are guilty of participating in these abominable acts that God has forbid. And they hide behind military, they hide behind secret societies, brotherhoods, oaths, they hide behind Congress. And while committing these crimes on behalf of Europe against those of us living here.
Have you seen the average auto insurance rate in Florida? It's crazy. I don't know how anyone can afford to live here. Floridians are paying about over $3,500 per year on average for full.
2 American spies have just arrived at Sandoz Laboratories, one of the world's leading pharmaceutical factories. The mission: corner the market on the world's supply of a powerful new psychoactive drug.
The CIA was scared stiff the KGB was going to get all this LSD and come over and start dosing people. So we bought every drop of LSD in existence at that point.
The CIA has just authorized the purchase of 10 kilograms of pure LSD-25, enough to dose more than half the population of the United States.
They gave it to...
Enough to dose more than half the population. They created mental illness. They created drug addicts. They created it on purpose.
George White and let George start dosing people.
George Hunter White, a larger-than-life undercover federal narcotics agent. Unbeknownst to his supervisors, White also
Narcotics agent. The DEA, Drug Enforcement Agency. He was already a DEA agent. Then the CIA said, yo, you already got access to drugs. We're going to use you, give you higher authority, turn them drugs loose on the people.
works for the CIA. His job, to conduct experiments for an operation called Midnight Climax.
George had a CIA safe house stocked with booze. George would sit behind this one-way mirror, drinking martinis, sitting on a portable toilet. If he had to take a leak, he didn't want to get up and leave.
White pays prostitutes to lure their clients to the agency's safe house.
Hookers who would bring these suckers back to the apartment and dose them with pure LSD 25.
This is where I have my effect.
Hookers would go and get Johns, bring them to the CIA safe house. So the government is taxing the US people and paying for this operation. They're making you pay taxes so that they can drug your loved one and give them LSD and turn them into an addict. So they can have a prostitute lure your husband into having sex with them while you pay taxes, and they take the taxes that you paid and they give it to the CIA dude, and everything he drinking, the place where he's staying at, the safe house, everything is paid for by your own money. Then when your husband becomes a drug addict and he comes back home and he's raping your kids, and your kids become drug addicts. And it's a generational spiral. And then they send you to mental health facilities. Federal government created the drug epidemic in the USA. What? Where y'all at? This is during the hippie revolution. So now they go over to Russell Simmons and Rick Rubin and all of the drug, sex, rock and roll. Bring in the Beatles. Bring it. It's the hippie movement. Woodstock. Let's go down to Haight-Ashbury, San Francisco. Everybody know heroin everywhere. Heroin everywhere. This is during the height of Charles Manson. Charles Manson was in this program. They unleashed the demon, Charles Manson, and the family. High on LSD, Charles Manson was in this program. And they watched him and studied him and documented, and then they would lock him up after he killed families, then put him back on the street, and then watch the reaction to him on the drugs, slaughtering other families. They documented Charles Manson and the people in his family in their reign of terror on the drugs that they gave him. What? Where y'all at? Where y'all at?
In the mind.
This is lysergic acid diethylamide, better known as acid. The powerful drug was first synthesized in 1938 in Switzerland. With a dose of mere micrograms, the mind becomes confused. Perception is distorted.
Y'all talk about Switzerland. Y'all talk about Switzerland and Germany and them and any of the European nations like they got any credibility. They don't have no credibility whatsoever. The amount of families and lives that was destroyed. And the only reason why they created LSD over there was to give it to the USA because they couldn't do nothing with the superpower. This is the same way that the British took over China. They used opium. It's the same way the British did in India. They always use drugs. This is the operation of the British Navy. of MI6, the British intelligence operation. First, they called it the Dutch East India Company and the Dutch West India Company, funded by the Roman Catholic Church. Then it became the British Navy. They went into China, did the same thing. Flooded China with heroin, opium. And then they went and defeated and colonized China. Same thing in India. And now they tried to do the same thing in the US. LSD ain't worked. They came back right behind it with crack. Now they're going over to China and they're bringing the fentanyl from China, which the British control, to the US. Afghanistan, from Vietnam all the way up till this fentanyl age, it was opium again, heroin, from Afghanistan. And Mexico.
Personal identity is called into question. The results can be euphoric bliss or deadly panic. White takes meticulous notes and files his reports to his CIA handlers.
So that was how LSD was introduced to this country.
Operation Midnight Climax is part of a larger top-secret CIA program called MK Ultra.
Huh?
The goal, learn how to control and even reprogram people's minds. The CIA believes LSD might hold the key.
Huh? So their goal was MK Ultra. What's MK Ultra? What Barack Obama just resurrected when he gave Elon Musk billions of dollars for SpaceX. In the same way the federal government funded this dude, so they sex trafficking individuals to Elon Musk and having Elon Musk put brain chips in the individuals, because drugs alone, individuals are getting their memory back. Barack Obama has done MK Ultra 2.0. Where y'all at? Right here in Florida. Right here in Florida. Same exact operation. The government gives them billions of dollars. They still using fentanyl and the drugs, but he told Elon Musk, yo, you need to put a brain chip so they don't get their memory back. And all over the country, just like they had houses, they got houses and they got sex trafficking rings and all of that. Florida's the headquarters. During the 80s, they had a scandal called the Franklin scandal, where they exposed this, that they was doing it in the White House. So after the Franklin scandal, they like, yo, we're going to have to use our top secret sites like NASA and all that. And Epstein Island, Donald Trump, Epstein Island, NASA top secret sites, and we ain't never going to bring it back to the White House. They ain't stopped the operation. They just said, yo, don't ever let the scandal include us at the White House again.
Many things, guys, many things. This logo, although it looks simple, is encoded with so much occult.
The H is Horus. The I is Isis. The S is Set. This is the Egyptian sun gods. This is the true religion of the Roman Catholic Church. This is the true African spirituality. This is what Moses, what they did, the golden calf. This is what Cain did with the body of Abel. After he killed it, he had this sex with the dead, necromancy. Further demon possession.
And I'm sorry, but if they were really for Christ, no. This is the black sun, just to remind us all. The black sun, which is the gate. The black sun of death.
Which is the anus. The anus. That's why you got a planet called Uranus. The portal, Uranus.
Is the eclipse. Now, we all know that the black sun is a very bad thing. So then it shouldn't surprise us that
Gog and Magog, what God said is going to the flames. Gog and Magog. And y'all getting initiated. This is slave masonry. Gog and Magog. These are the tools that God told Cain. Don't put no tool. And he fashioned and God cursed him forever. Marked him.
it goes so far as to put the 3 nails that crucified Christ on that black sun.
All right. Boom. Boom. Okay, let's go to the biblical.
God giveth thee. Thou shalt.
Let's go. All of y'all Christians.
Lord shall choose.
Huh?
Then he shall minister in the name of the Lord his God, as all his brethren the Levites.
Y'all Christian. Y'all worshiping God in those spirituality, African spirituality. Y'all worshiping God, huh? Well, let's see what God say about individuals who worship with these unclean, unfamiliar spirits. Let's see what the true God of heaven say. This Deuteronomy chapter 18.
Do, which stand there before the Lord, they shall have like portions to eat, beside that which cometh of nations.
Here you go. When you come into the land. So this is Moses writing. They on the banks of the Jordan before God parts the Jordan. And God is about to give each tribe their own separate lands. And God is saying the individuals in the land, you're getting the land because they're worshiping Satan like this. So you don't get to have no land. And then he's going to tell them, if you go into the land and you join them, I'm cursing y'all too. He specifically spells out these spiritual systems that y'all in. When you go into the land, you should not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. Because God was giving Joshua the ability to kill them for this satanic worship. There shall not be found among you anyone that makes his son or his daughter pass through the fire of Sodom and Gomorrah. Pedophilia is an adult communicating with the fallen spirits sexually, like they did to the golden calf, with their children. And when they were in the part of the land called Babylon, they called Horus Molech. Remember, Horus is the child in the Egyptian Trinity. So the sexual ritual is a sexual ritual causing your child to pass through the fire of sodomy. This is why God burned down Sodom and Gomorrah, because this was their religion. Ancient spiritual, huh? This is your ancient spiritual religion. All you Africans talking about, oh, we're practicing this is it. And the only God that there is, there ain't no other God. You can't worship another God. The only God that there is has said, none of you or that uses divination. Huh? Divination? Communicating with the dead spirits. Huh? This is right here in black and white. The same God that cursed Cain. So the very first time that this was introduced to the earth was Cain. But the very first religious worship system was not Cain. Adam and Eve, his parents, worshiped God for years in God's creation. So you can't have an ancient spiritual religion on earth that predates the one that God gave us. No matter how many times y'all try and say the word ancient. Adam and Eve, in the covenant of marriage, had total dominion on the earth for years before they even had their first child. So you can't predate the original worship system that God gave us. Hello, where you at? And the same God that gave the worship system to them and Judge Cain is here telling Moses, you better warn these people. Because the authority that I'm going to give you is death and destruction to them. So what ignorant fool will receive the authority and the power to kill them and take their lands and then turn around and enter into the same worship and think I'm not going to find another group of people to come and kill you? That is so ignorant. That uses divination or an observer of times. Zodiac, age of Aquarius. You a Pisces, you a Cancer, you a Leo. Observer of times. They used to observe the stars and worship the stars and the sun, moon, and the stars and observe all of the constellations named after the zodiac. And God said, that's what Cain and them was doing. That's what I drowned in the flood. That's what the Babylonians built the Tower of Babel so they could observe the stars. That's what the pharaohs built the pyramids for so they could observe. Observer of times.
There shall not be found.
Or an enchanter. For real, Walt Disney. Witches. Wicca. Magic. Huh? Or an enchanter. Or a witch. Y'all love Walt Disney. Y'all love the magic. Y'all love the witchcraft. Y'all love Harry Potter. Huh? Y'all Harry Potter people. Huh? God going straight down the list. And he telling them, I'm killing the people in the Canaan land because this is how they work. So he's looking at what y'all call y'all African spirituality. And he like, you gonna get a promised land because they worship my enemy like this. Man, y'all gotta be kidding me.
And among you anyone that maketh his...
Or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits. Oh my goodness. With unfamiliar spirits. He's talking about the 1/3 that he cast out of heaven. That he has slated for hellfire. He's saying any of y'all that communicate with them, you dead like them. or a charmer, when y'all go into church, they got a prayer in your bulletin called invocation. That's what he's talking about. You invoke the spirit of the 1/3. Only witches and enchanters and charmers invoke anything. You ain't got to invoke God. You do not do an invocation when you talk to God. Only individuals who are in violation of this do invocations. Frank E. Leggett III. My spiritual poor dad. My hip hop spiritual poor dad. Been doing this his whole career. Whole career. A consulter with unfamiliar spirits, a wizard, or a necromancer. So up top, he talking about causing your children to pass through the fire. So that's pederasty. Necromancer, pedophilia with the dead, when you do it with the dead. When you do it to communicate with the outcasts who are slated for hellfire, it's necromancy. It's right here. So, you got these individuals that will abduct your child, kill your child, so that they can have sex with their dead body in worship to these spirits that they call ancient. Yeah, this is ancient. Consulter with familiar spirits. And everybody who's doing this, all of these things are demon possessed. Because once the entities take possession, then so the demons have an appetite. The demons have an appetite. This is where you get fetishes from. Each demon has its own appetite, which it wants to consume. So when it takes possession, the person will feed the demon whatever appetite. And when the person has a legion in it, it has to feed all of the demons. So one individual might be having sex with the children when they're alive, and same individual turn around to feed the other demon in them and have sex with the children after they kill them. Some demons crave alcoholism. Some demons crave heroin addiction. Some demons crave fentanyl. And whatever the demon craves, you will feed it. And so you have individuals addicted to multiple substances because they have multiple demons. Mary Magdalene had 7 different demons. And the sex that she was practicing, the demons crave specific type of sexual rituals. This is why God forbade it. And this is why God kills them. Look at this statement right here. Oh, dang. For real? Look at this statement. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this.
Hello.
Once again, this don't have nothing to do with no feelings.
Can I help you with your groceries? This journey.
This don't have nothing to do with no theory.
It wasn't because he had more talent.
This don't have nothing to do with
discipline.
no opinions.
It was because he just...
This straight from
God
God's
giveth
mouth.
thee. Thou shalt not learn to do after the abomination of those nations.
For all that do these things, not some, for all that do these things, for every single being that does these things are an abomination unto the Lord. And because of these abominations, the Lord thy God will drive them out from before you and give you the land. I am giving you a promised land because they are an abomination to me. And it is contingent on you not practicing this, or you become the abomination and I'll take the lands from you. Where y'all at, man? So this should not be a problem for nobody. Why? Because we're giving you the original covenant. I don't care if you're from Haiti. I don't care if you're from Africa. I don't care if you're from Europe. I don't care where you're from. We ain't just telling you, yo, that what you believed all your life is a lie. We telling you that.